How are you, friends? Welcome once again to your podcast. Before starting, I want to send a greeting to my friend Christy Lozano and also to my friend Ricardo. Thank you very much for the gift you sent me. It's very nice. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Also, greetings to everyone who watches and listens to us. Today, my friends, let's get to know a little more about a character who comes from a well-known family in this environment. As you might have seen in the title of this episode, we're going to talk about Alfredo Jr. Let's get to know him a little better. What are his tastes? What has happened with him? What events has he been involved in? And what are his goals and many more things? But let's get started already. The young man I'm talking about is Alfredo Beltran Guzman, son of the well-known Alfredo Beltran Leiva el Mochomo, and obviously nephew of the famous Botas Blancas, Arturo Beltran. What are the nicknames of this young man? They call him Alfredo Jr., Alfredito, Tito, Dientito, Mochomito, and Dosbanderas. He comes from a family where everything revolves around the Ocran environment. Here we're going to explain how is him. To start, as you already know from his father's side, he is a Beltran Leiva, and his uncles already know it since they are all well-known figures in that environment, also on his mother's side. Well, she is the daughter of Pocha's half-brother, Mr. Ernesto Guzman. Therefore, the Pocha, he is his great-uncle, and the Chapitos, they are Alfredito's uncles. And I'm emphasizing this because many people mistakenly say they are his cousins. They are not. They are his uncles. Also his father's sister. She was the wife of the son of El Azul. So the Azulito is Alfredito's uncle-in-law. So here I show you a photo of Alfredito Beltran. Well, since he was a kid, Alfredito felt a great passion for music, just like his dad and his uncle. There was one instrument that caught his attention the most. I mean the accordion. And Alfredito began to play it. He took lessons from the musicians, for example. Pedrito, from Grupo 360, was one of Alfredito's accordion teachers. At the same time, from his hobby of playing the accordion. Tito is passionate about horses. He had a very beautiful one that was given to him by Joan Sebastian one of the times he went to perform at the Palenque in Culiacan, which the Chapito stolen from him in 2016. I imagine they have already returned them. But we will cover that later. Obviously, since Alfredito was born, his family was already involved in this environment. But Tito got fully into work at a very young age. I think he was between 15 and 16 years old when he started reselling his dad's merchandise. But he only did it in the Culiacan area. What he dealt with was blow and glass. He had 2 offices, but the most well-known was a car wash. The Stoffreinforrefer. That it had by name Car Wash Elmo, with the image of the cartoon character Elmo. Anyone who passed by the car wash could tell that strange things were happening there, because vehicles were coming and going that weren't there to be washed, because they would go in and come out in 10 minutes or less, and since in those years there were no problems in Culiacan, and everything was very quiet. It wasn't like, as if they were hiding because there were regular people who weren't in the business, who went to wash their car at that car wash, and they could observe all the movement discussing the merchandise transaction. How they took it out of the office and put it in the arriving vehicles was shameless. Obviously, the name Elmo wasn't from the cartoon character, but it was from the car wash Elmo Chomo. And if I tell you that was where all the transactions happened, I'd lie. Because there was another house in the Montebello neighborhood that I can tell you that they did things more boldly there. Since there was a garage with the gate open and people passing by could see hundreds and hundreds of Losky. But it was like they were selling tomatoes. They didn't hide from anyone. Everyone who passed by could see the merchandise, and cars would arrive and buy 200, 300 in large quantities for all to see. Glass was given in small Tupperware boxes, of course. Of course, Tito didn't need to do that because that was when the nickname Two Flags was born, and it started as a way to mock Alfredito, but later the musicians, they changed it so that the nickname would be seen as something positive in Culiacan. So Alfredito would move anywhere, whether it was territories of those from Culiacan or his uncle Arturo's territory. He lived in Culiacan, but he used to go on vacation to Cancun or Acapulco and spend seasons in Guadalajara without any problem. When what happened with his dad happened, when they arrested him, shortly after they called Alfredito and Ocran, and they made him see that the pocha had nothing to do with his dad's arrest. Not Manuel Torres, the M1. One time, 2 people who belonged to Arturo's organization were brought to him, and with his persuasion techniques, he made them reveal quite a few secrets. Well, in one of those revelations, one of them claimed that Alfredito was passing information to his uncle Arturo's people, and M1 made it known to Yoma and Pocha, and Arturo's daughters called Alfredito to visit them. And there, they took him to a warehouse, but it was a warehouse with Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Bentleys, and super luxury cars. And there were so many of them. And because Arturo had so much money from what the sailors had seized in Arturo's apartment in Cuernavaca on the day of the operation, the one I told you about in an earlier episode that still had blood. When Alfredito heard that and knew where that short came from, his face twisted. And he didn't like it at all. But what could he do? He just took it in his hands, looked at it for a few seconds, and returned it. And he just said, "All right, that's fine." But it was immediately noticeable that this action bothered him a lot. Have you heard of Barbarino, the famous character from the Corrido Regalo Caro, where Los Tucanes and Banda El Recodo were playing? I think it was Barbarino's daughter's 15th birthday. And that's where Barbarino told Alfredito that he was very hurt by what had happened with Mochomo. One of Alfredito's friends suffered an attack. I am talking about Nito Roca. He was in a bar in Culiacan in the Las Quintas neighborhood, then Sacarosar. There on Sinaloa Boulevard where all the young people used to gather and hang out. Well, Nito Roca was in that bar with some of his friends when the police captured him very close to the scene of the altercation. This was the fateful resignation of the Mini Six. Since he was very young, he liked equipment and tools, but it's not like Alfredito can order them what to do. To Isidro and all of them, I'm telling you, because a lot of people talk about it. That he is the heir of the Beltran family, and that's a complete lie. Of course, he is a Beltran, but he is who he is and will have his small group of people. But it doesn't compare at all to Isidro's organization or all the organizations that came out of the Beltran group. And they might do him a favor, but they don't take orders from Alfredito. Well, Alfredito left the place. But a few hours later, he came back and fired a .47 at the entrance of the club. So he shot at the entrance of the club. The person who resigned him was Chiquilin, one of the closest and most trusted workers of Mochomo. They resigned a young man named Ruben Valdez Salas, whom everyone knew as Chapito Barrial, son of Chapo Barrial, a well-known trafficker. And Alfredito, he resumed his plans to confront Guano and did so with the support of El Chapo Isidro, the musician, and the Quintero family. They began attacking Guano in the mountains. In fact, once they got the location of the Guano in a village among the mountains, they sent in a special operations group from the Navy that they funded. Helicopters came down, and as a group of equipped men attacked the village of La Tuna Badiraguato, the place where Pocha, Aureliano, and all the brothers were born. Well, in those days, there was a lot of speculation about what had happened, because the mother of Pocha was in the place at the time of the attack. When a person arrived at a restaurant in Mexico City and said to Alfredito, "Hey, stay sharp. Watch out, because they are putting a lot of money to mess you up." I was with Gabriel Valenzuela, and he just told me that he handed over $400,000 to the Chapitos and like 20 tubes, launchers, and about 200 potatoes. And that he's going to send them about 10 armored vehicles. And what do they need to mess with the little mongrel referring to you? Alfredito. It seemed like his eyes were popping out with rage that Gabriel Valenzuela referred to him as a little mongoloid. When the incident at the La Leche restaurant in Puerto Vallarta happened, the person who knew that the Chapitos would be in Puerto Vallarta and were going to celebrate there. And he said they were there, at the La Leche restaurant. It was Alfredito. The musician said that one day he was going to get back at Alfredito for what he did. By the people who had... There saw Sindin, that he had set up his Uncle Arturo's company just to stay in the good graces of the Chapitos, and that he acted all tough, but he wasn't worth a taco of you can imagine what.